The Kawhi Leonard saga is over, well, at least until next summer. Wednesday morning, the Spurs traded the disgruntled All-Star along with Danny Green to the Toronto Raptors for All-Star DeMar DeRozan, backup center Jakob Poeltl, and a protected 2019 first-round pick. Leonard, who only appeared in 9 games last season, had expressed a desire to be dealt to Los Angeles, according to multiple sources. But instead, Spurs head coach Greg Popovich moved Leonard to Toronto, where President Masai Ujiri dramatically overhauled the roster since getting swept by the Cavs in the second round. Then Scott 3DZ joins us. This news breaks. You're looking at your phone. What is your first reaction?
Wow. Finally, it's over. Finally, Pop has found a situation to move Kawhi. I think most of us knew they was not going to send him to the Lakers or to the Western Conference. Now he's found Toronto to step up. You get DeMar DeRozan. Now the future continues.
The future does continue, and we have to get our Hall of Famer, David Aldridge. This story breaks, and from Toronto's point of view, what were they thinking, and what is their next step with having one of the best players in the NBA now on their roster?
Well, look, here's the thing. I mean, after they got swept by Cleveland in the conference semifinals, Masai Ujiri, the GM, just felt like they needed to change more than just a little bit. And so they fired Dwayne Casey. They brought in Nick Nurse, one of his assistants, to be head coach. But they had let it be known going forward that nobody was untouchable on their roster, including DeMar DeRozan, including Kyle Lowry. And it just came to pass that DeMar, probably has a little bit more trade value than some of the other veteran players that they have under contract. And it made sense from their standpoint to at least take a crack at Kawhi Leonard. Look, they think their young guys are really up and coming. They really like Van Vliet. They really like DeLon Wright. They really like Siakam. So they feel like they Anunoby as well. I always get those letters mixed up. So they like their young core group, and they wanted to keep those 4 especially together, and they were able to do that. And they're taking a gamble on Kawhi Leonard, they know, but at the very least, if it's only a 1-year rental road, at least they get some cap relief. DeMar has $83 million left on his deal. They're already paying Kyle $100 million. They're paying $65 million to Ibaka. I mean, it just got, from that standpoint, it was getting close to pretty untenable, knowing that you're going to have to extend some of these young guys in a couple of years as well.
And with that being said, DA, we know the billion-dollar question is, what can Toronto do as a city and as an organization to make Kawhi feel happy to possibly want to stay?
Well, yeah, 3D, it's going to be tough because he doesn't want to go there. I mean, it's very clear that is not a place that he wanted to go. He wanted to go to L.A. I am told he would have accepted a trade to Philadelphia. He would, because of the relationship with Brett Brown, because of the young star pieces that the 76ers have. He would have given him a fair hearing for a year. Doesn't mean he would have stayed, but he would have given him a fair hearing. I don't get the sense that right now he's inclined to give Toronto that same fair hearing. But, look, they're a very, very solid organization with Masai at the top. They have a lot of money in that ownership group. That's never going to be a problem in Toronto. It's a great city, not good, great metropolitan city. It gets cold in the winter. Yes, it does. It snows there occasionally. But it's still a great town. So, and they've got a terrific fan base. They sell out that building constantly. So there's a story for the Raptors to tell, and a proud one, about their last few years as a group. And they can sell it to Kawhi Leonard as this way: we've gone as far as we could go. We need somebody to take us to the next level, and you're a Finals MVP, and you can show us how. So that's a discussion and a story that they can tell that could resonate with Kawhi Leonard. We will see.
We hear a lot, he's a pop guy. Guys that are low maintenance. We think about the David Robinsons, the Tim Duncans, Manu Ginobili's, even Kawhi Leonard before this past season. Does DeMar DeRozan fit that type of being a pop player off the court, and can he be a pop player on the court in that system?
Yeah, I don't think on the floor it'll be a problem at all. I mean, look, this is a very, very efficient player inside the arc. He still is not a great three-point shooter. But, you get him the ball in the elbow, he's going to score or he's going to get fouled, one of the two, most of the time. So they can figure out a way to use him. He is not, as I said, a great three-point shooter. He is not as good as Danny Green was behind the arc. But he can do some things that Danny couldn't do offensively. And I think they will figure out different ways to use him. Pop's a very smart coach. He's got a great staff. So from that standpoint, I don't think it'll be a problem. I don't think it'll be a problem off the floor in terms of DeMar DeRozan as a person. The problem is just that he didn't want to be traded from Toronto. I don't think he has anything against the Spurs, but this is a guy who was really the face of the franchise in Toronto for 9 years, was the first kind of homegrown player in that organization that really wanted to be there and really extolled Toronto as a place to be and to live as that franchise started building towards what they are now, which is one of the best teams in the East. And so he wanted to stay there. He just expressed that a couple of weeks ago, I think, during the summer league to us at NBA TV. So that part is going to be difficult because he just feels lied to, basically, about his future with the Raptors. And that's not necessarily anything that the Spurs did. It's not their fault that they wanted him, but, they'd have to deal with that.
And, D.A., speaking of future, the Lakers. Do the Lakers wait till next summer because most of us think Kawhi's going to go there? Or do they say things aren't going that well in Toronto, maybe they get Kawhi at the trade deadline? What do the Lakers do now?
Well, I think they can go either way, 3D. I mean, they have to clear some cap room to be able to offer a max deal next year to Kawhi Leonard. Now, they can do it. I don't think it's going to be a problem for them to do it. They'll have to stretch Dang or do something or move them at some point to start the process of creating that kind of room. Whether they do it at the deadline or not really kind of depends on Kawhi, I think. I mean, if he tells the Raptors flat out, from day one, minute one, I'm not re-signing here, you should trade me somewhere else, I'm not going to be happy here, then maybe they would be inclined to cut their losses at the trade deadline and make a deal with the team for some prospects, picks, whatever. If he says, I'll give it a fair shot, I'll give you a fair hearing, I'll see how I feel in a few months, the Lakers can always hang back and wait, because whether they get Kawhi or one of the other really, really good free agents that are going to be in next year's group, they're going to be able to go after another marquee player, another elite level, max level player to go with LeBron, whether it's Kawhi or someone else. So I don't think from that standpoint they're rushed in terms of making a decision. I think whether they trade for Kawhi now will depend on Kawhi.
Hey, D.A., we're not going to rush you away just yet. Thanks for that information. We're going to need you later on the show, so stick around for us.
Sure.
Of course, the Hall of Famer David Aldridge. Got to take it to NBA Twitter. The tweets are going on DeJounte Murray.
Oh, yeah, DeJounte's happy to have me a new running mate on the wing.
And then Paul George.
Oh, keep shaking your head, PG.
Yeah, definitely shaking his head. You're enjoying your time in Philadelphia in the offseason, so sorry to disturb you, but hey, this news broke. We got to get your thoughts. What were your first thoughts when you saw Kawhi going to Toronto, your favorite city?
Well, I thought it was a great trade by the Spurs to get a 28-year All-NBA player and got him locked up for a few more years. And Porter is a really good player off the bench. So I thought it was a great trade by the Spurs. They wasn't going to get anything better than that, to get an all-star player and a really good backup and a number one draft pick down the line. I thought it was a great trade. But Toronto, they swinging for the fences. That's my favorite city. Maybe Kawhi's going to like it there. They took a chance. Do I think it was worth it? Listen, they got nothing to lose. Listen, Kawhi, if he is all in, going to love that city. It's the best kept secrets in the world. But I thought it was a great trade by the Spurs, man. A really good trade on the Spurs.
And, Chuck, we knew Pop was not going to send Kawhi to the Lakers and make them better overnight. And I know you're a big Masai Ujiri fan. What does Masai need to say to Kawhi to make him feel welcome throughout this season to possibly try to keep him for future?
Well, I think he's probably the most underrated GM in the league. If you go back and look what he's done, drafting players and making trades, he's made Toronto a perennial first-place Eastern Conference team. They haven't been able to get past the Cavs, but they've been one of the elite teams in basketball for the last X amount of years. It just depends on how Kawhi want to go to L.A. or not. I mean, I'm not sure if there's anything that Masai can do. But I'm saying he can. He only got him for 1 year. But if he wants to go to L.A., clearly he's going to go to L.A. There was no way. I told people a month ago, the Spurs are not going to trade Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers and have to play against him and LeBron for the next 5 years. So that was never going to happen. But, man, Toronto went for it. I give them credit. But, listen, I like what the Spurs did. DeMar is one of the best players in the world. And, I also think, they're one of the teams in the Western Conference. I think Houston came back to the pack losing Trevor Ariza. I think Oklahoma City is going to be better without Carmelo. I think the Timberwolves are going to be pretty good. And I think the Spurs are right there in that mix. And then the Lakers are right there somewhere.
So you mentioned the Lakers, so I have to get your thoughts because it doesn't seem like the way the roster is constructed right now that the Lakers are going to compete for a championship. We all know that things could change, but last season we saw Paul George openly want to go to the Lakers. The Lakers don't make the move to get Paul George. Now, essentially, the Lakers find themselves in a very similar situation with a player that says they want to go to Los Angeles, but the Lakers didn't necessarily make all the moves to acquire him. So where are the Lakers sitting at right now?
I think they're the 5 or 6 seed in the Western Conference. I don't think they're definitely not contenders, but I think you can say that probably like they're around 5 or 6 in my opinion. I mean, LeBron's great, but they don't have a lot to go with him. I mean, I think there's some elite teams in the West. The West is going to be a dogfight, and I don't think the Lakers are a contender.
And Chuck, now with TNT having the Eastern Conference next year in the playoffs, how happy will you be if Toronto makes it back to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, I think what's going to be interesting, it's a 3-team dogfight between Toronto, Boston, and Philly. I think that's going to be, it's going to be a dogfight. I'm going to enjoy any of those 3 cities. Now, you know that. Boston is just an hour flight from Philly, so I can stay at my house. If Philly gets there, I can stay at my house. And Toronto is one of my favorite cities. So those are the 3 elite teams in the Eastern Conference. So it's going to work out good for us. I tell you what's going to be interesting is Boston. Because, I don't know if they have enough basketballs to go around. They got a lot of talent, man. They got a lot of talent. But it's not going to be easy to just put 2 all-star players back out there and everything's going to work perfect. And Jaylen Brown and Tatum, man, they have terrific years. I don't think they want to stand around and watch Kyrie and Gordon just score all the points. They just stand around. So, and same thing with Al Horford. It's going to be very interesting with all that talent they got in Boston, how they make it work.
Hey, Chuck, well, thanks for joining us. I know you're enjoying your offseason in the city of brotherly love, and, you're looking forward to the Eastern Conference Finals. But just enjoy your offseason in the meantime playing golf.
Hey, listen, there's nobody better at free time than Charles Wayne Tucker.
Having Charles is always great. And then there's NBA Twitter, which is great as well.
Good morning.
Good morning. Donovan Mitchell, of course, shocked. The NBA offseason is awesome. We get a legend starts up next. Isaiah Thomas joins Game Time. On the huge Kawhi Leonard trade as the Claw is on the way to Toronto. But this is not the first time Coach Pop has been faced with losing an all-star player.
We got a great group to work with, and we've changed the team before. Every championship that Timmy played on was a little bit different. So this year will be not much different than other years. We had a lot of additions last year. The year after Timmy retired, we won 61 games and went to the conference finals. The team changed. And, last year under tough circumstances, the 47 wins I thought was an excellent effort on the part of the team. And there were a lot of players that hadn't played a whole lot in the past. So, we'll do it again, but we'll have an even more talented crew this year than we had last year.
How recently did you feel that Kawhi, there was still a chance that anybody would stay?
We talked often over the summer about a lot of different things, both on and off the court. So, attempts were made, to see what would be best. And in the end, this trade appeared, and he felt that this was the way to go.
Is there any question still about his health, Kawhi's health?
I don't think so. No.
So Coach Pop right there talking about moving Kawhi Leonard, who, by the way, fun fact, is the NBA's all-time leader in win percentage, right ahead of two guys you might be familiar with, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. So great company right there. So Pop, he seems very comfortable with this decision moving forward without Kawhi.
Well, one thing we know about Pop, he's done his due diligence to making sure he's exhausted every opportunity to bring Kawhi back. It's not going to happen now. So when you look at the roster, you look at Murray, DeRozan, Gay, Gasol, and LaMarcus Aldridge, that's not a bad starting five now on your depth chart. Now, obviously, the Western Conference is extremely deep. But one thing we know about Pop, the system speaks for itself. He'll get DeMar DeRozan in, make him feel comfortable, and they'll still be competitive.
So you mentioned the system. Now, is the system potentially going to change? You have more of an athletic player in DeMar DeRozan. Do you see that happening with the Spurs?
No question about it. Obviously, they've gotten away from the mid-range game and shoot more threes. We saw DeMar DeRozan this year shoot a few more threes this year in the system he was coming from. So I look for him to shoot more corner threes, and Pop will find a way to have the ball in his hands so he can still be effective and get to the free throw line.
Definitely effective. It's been a couple of years since the Spurs last won their championship. You've seen since 2014, the playoff results haven't been exactly what they want them to be, losing the first round in the Western Conference Finals a number of times. We welcome in our front office expert, a basketball savant, David Griffin, on the line. Griff, you there?
Ro, what's going on, man?
Hey, you know
I don't know about basketball savant. That's
well, you know exactly what's going on. What were your first thoughts when you hear this news drop this morning?
Yeah, I was really surprised, actually, that San Antonio made the deal in the fashion they did. I thought with USA Basketball getting ready to begin, they would let Kawhi be there and prove that he's healthy. I think the offers would have been significantly better had he been healthy. And so I think if there was a window of opportunity for him to showcase that, I think they probably could have leaned on him a little bit to say, listen, we're not getting the kind of packages we want from the kind of places you want to go. Help us help you. And I'm just surprised that they acted when they did.
And Griff, with the timing of now Kawhi saying he will participate in USA basketball, was that a way to let the rest of the teams know that I'm healthy, I'm willing to show you guys I'm ready to play if you want to make a move for me?
Well, I think it was, and I think it certainly would have helped. I think anytime you're trying to put together a Godfather-type package to get a superstar player, you want to at least know that all the assets you're putting in the center of the table are being put there in pursuit of a healthy player who's capable of playing at the star level he once did. So I think it would have had a profound impact on the quality of offers that San Antonio was receiving.
And Griff, you've been in that chair before, obviously. Take us through what Masai is thinking, that I want to take a chance on this, knowing Kawhi may not be totally happy with this move. But on the flip side, if I get him here, I bring him to Toronto, I show him our culture, maybe we change his mind.
Well, I've never been in a situation where a player's expressed a lack of interest in coming immediately. You know, we had a situation where we took a gamble on Kevin Love, and he had the ability to leave us after 1 year. And we were very confident that being part of what we were building in Cleveland, trying to win a championship, would speak to Kevin over time, and fortunately it did. I think Oklahoma City's success in keeping Paul George sort of emboldened Masai and Bobby Webster to believe that they could sell their environment to Kawhi, and I get that, I really do. I think this is almost a no-lose situation for Toronto, because it's a really big gamble on the one hand, but they'd sort of run aground, and they weren't as good as they wanted to be in the Eastern Conference with the mix they had. DeMar's owed a great deal of money, and in the playoffs had not played to the level of that contract. So in a way, if Kawhi was not happy, they would know that, and they'd have a better feel for it by trade deadline. I think they could potentially flip Kawhi again for more than they're giving up if cap flexibility mattered to Toronto after this season, and I think it probably does. So I like this gamble by Masai quite a bit regardless. It doesn't even matter to me if Kawhi says, I will stay. I don't think that's the only thing that makes this a successful deal. I think they wanted to reset the deck a little bit, and getting off of DeMar's money might be part of doing that. And if Kawhi stays, this is just truly beyond a home run deal for Masai and Bobby.
Now you see why Roe called you a savant. You see, you just took it to another level for us and explain to the people at home that this is a smart move for Masai. See what I mean? Thank you, Griff.
Oh, man. Griff, I
get lucky once in a while.
Griff, before we get you out of here, I have to ask you this. So you mentioned an unhappy player in Kawhi Leonard. So you go from one disgruntled wing leaving San Antonio to another entering San Antonio in DeMar DeRozan. So what are the chances DeRozan actually sticks around in San Antonio?
You know, I think, again, this is a situation. I try to be mindful at times like this that R.C. Buford is infinitely better at his job than I've ever been. So I believe there's a plan here, and it could also be part of perhaps flipping DeMar DeRozan. There's a potential for that as well. I think he goes from a situation, and you guys just mentioned this about Kawhi, he goes from a situation where he was paying incredibly high taxes to a place with no state income tax. That might get comforting to him over time.
Of course, it's all about the money at the end of the day. At least that's what I've heard. Hey, Griff, thanks for taking time to join us.
Thanks so much, fellas.
Toronto always keeping it classy, going online today to make sure they thank DeMar DeRozan for everything that he's done for that franchise. The all-time leading scorer for Toronto Raptors now going to San Antonio, and there is the Claw, former Finals MVP, doing work on the move. More coming up. The news, DeMar DeRozan took it to social media. Be told one thing and out come the other. Can't trust him. Ain't no loyalty in this game. Sell you out quick for a little bit of nothing. As they say, these pros ain't loyal. Right now, we want to bring in Bones, former San Antonio Spur, Brent Barry. So, Bones, you see this deal being made by the Spurs and the Raptors. From the Spurs' perspective, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a curious move. By the way, good afternoon to you guys. I'm learning a lot of new lyrics to rap songs. Thanks, bro. You know, it's 3D and I talked about this when the news of Kawhi potentially being traded and all the things that were transpiring between the organization and Kawhi's group. And 3D and I really hit on this point, Ro, and that is for the way that Coach Pop and RC have handled the organization over the course of their time there. There's been a lot said, and I was very fortunate to be part of this experience, about there's no one player that's greater than the team. What I think would have been really difficult to swallow for all the years that Pop and RC have done this is for them to have extended Kawhi Leonard to that max contract, given all the years that Tim Duncan sacrificed money, Manu Ginobili sacrificed money. All of the times we've heard Pop talk about how he's built the culture and what he believes in, to reward Kawhi Leonard in that way, given what the franchise had to deal with over the past year with the grumblings and the back and forth and not stepping up and doing your job, that would have been the curious thing. So I'm not surprised that San Antonio didn't, go all the way in. They obviously extended their hand to try to make this relationship something that they could repair. And at some point, they're going to make the decision, and 3D knows this, that their basketball team is bigger than any one of their players. And I think that that's why we got to this point where a trade was going to happen. Now, I think a lot of us are surprised that it's Toronto. We thought, Lakers, Clippers, and maybe Philly sliding in. It's a curious move. It's a bold move by Masai Ujiri to do what he's done. But the Spurs were ready to move on. And interesting the way they're going to go about their rebuild, adding another mid-range shooter to a team that, has moved off the three-point line and now has some more versatility in a stud in DeMar DeRozan.
And with that being said, Bones, how does Pop and the Brass change his thinking, knowing he's upset that the Raptors said they weren't going to trade him out in Vegas, then he does get traded? How does that system change his mind and make him feel welcomed?
Well, you and I know this. 3D time will help that out. It's still, we're talking July. We've got a couple of months still before guys are going to get themselves to the cities where they're about to play and begin training camp. There's always a lot of hurt feelings, and as a player, you always take a trade, your perspective on those trades become a lot different as you get older. And I know DeMar's talking a lot about loyalty and about promises. Look, we understand loyalty for a player should always be about the game. That's it. You want somebody in your corner. You want to believe in the franchise and the organization. But when it comes down to it, you've got to believe in what it is you bring to game. And DeMar will get back to that, I think, very, very quickly. The interesting one, 3D and Roe, is Kawhi going to Toronto. This is Nick Nurse's first full-time head coaching NBA job. What is he going to do with that team that, last year pushed the envelope, tons of wins, has tons of expectations? How does Nick Nurse handle assimilating a guy like Kawhi Leonard into what they want to do systematically? That's going to be an interesting thing that their training camp, coming out of training camp, how it is that they play and the approach of Kawhi Leonard.
So you have DeMar DeRozan, who's played at an all-star level in the Eastern Conference, but in some opinions, he hasn't met expectations in the postseason. So now going to San Antonio, do you think that he can live up to those expectations? And is he the type of player that can fit in Pop's system, as he's been more looked at as an ISO player in the Eastern Conference?
Hey, Ro, if you want to play for Pop, you better fit into the system, or you're not going to play. Absolutely, DeMar can do that. Look, the guy's been on the All-Star team for the past 5 years. He's averaged over 20 points the last 5 years in the Eastern Conference. Obviously beloved since he got to Toronto back in the 2009-10 season. DeMar will figure this out, and San Antonio will find ways to use him, and they will be effective. Look, the team won 47 games last year with Kawhi just suiting up for 9 of those. You add DeMar DeRozan in his prime. You add Pirtle, a very capable big man that they think could probably do a lot of switching on the perimeter and still guard an area that has a lot of room to grow, a great prospect out of Utah. And then you have some flexibility with the draft choice. I know Masai did a great job of protecting that 2019 pick 1 through 20. And I think it turns into a couple second-rounders if that doesn't happen for San Antonio. But this team, San Antonio, will find ways to still be competitive, and they didn't want to give up on that by bringing in DeMar DeRozan at this point in his career and the security of those 3 years. Now, whether he stays there or not, I'm with Griff. Who knows? But for right now, I think it's a deal that San Antonio sort of had to make, and nobody stepped up with a better offer given their question marks about Kawhi Leonard and his health.
And with that question mark, Bones, let's say Kawhi and Masai Ujiri have the right conversation, he buys all the way in. So when you bring he and Danny Green into the situation, 2 champions, when you look at that roster, you say, wow, if all these guys buy in, this Eastern Conference could be wide open. Maybe this team could get back to the top again.
Oh, 3D, their roster is legit. You got their best player is Kyle Lowry. I know DeMar DeRozan is the favorite in Toronto, but Kyle over the past couple seasons has been their most important and most valuable player. You're going to have Danny Green, who's played 100 playoff games, step into that role with C.J. Miles behind him. Great veterans and guys who can pull the trigger from the three-point line. Kawhi Leonard potentially starting at the 3, Serge Ibaka at the 4, Valanciunas at the 5. And then all that bench unit last year that came in and had massive impact. Fred VanVleet, OG. They're going to be at Pascal Siakam. They're going to have a very complete roster, 3D, and it's going to be exciting, again, just to see how quickly and how much Kawhi Leonard impacts what Toronto can do and be about for next season.
Of course, Twitter is on fire right now. This right here, no matter what, when I think of Toronto Raptors basketball, I think DeMar DeRozan, he deserves a statue.
I'm not mad at that, DeMar, because he's one of the few guys that wanted to be there, stay there until he got traded.
Definitely put his money where his mouth is, re-signing with the Raptors. A 4-time All-Star on the move, going to San Antonio for a Defensive Player of the Year and a Finals MVP. More coming up on this trade after this.
I'm far from done. I felt like, even to this day, I feel like I haven't accomplished what I want to accomplish yet, and that's just the hunger in me, man. And it's just crazy to be sitting here. I'm going to be back for five more years, I am Toronto, outside of where I'm from. I represent this thing harder than anybody. I got so many goals that I want to accomplish still, and I just can't wait to put that jersey back on and, keep going.
Toronto. It's a place where Vince Carter left, Tracy McGrady left, Chris Bosh left, but DeMar DeRozan stuck around, the only homegrown player that actually re-signed with the Raptors, and all of a sudden he's shipped out?
He's one of the few guys, everybody used his name along with Vince Carter, that really wore "We the North" on his chest and wore it proudly. So if you're a Raptor fan, you're sore to see him leave, but you understand at the end of the day, this is still a business. We have to remind people of that.
Like Jay-Z once said, it was all good just a week ago. And looking at Toronto, a lot of people feel like they maxed out their talent with this particular squad, looking at their performances the last season, a franchise record in victories, but getting out of the playoffs a little bit too early.
And that's the tough part, Ro, why we have to remind our fans it's still a business. As much as we love DeMar DeRozan, he had gone as far as he can go with this franchise. So if you can bring in an MVP caliber guy like Kawhi Leonard, along with Danny Green, who's a champion, to try to get to the next level, to get out of the Eastern Conference, after you swallow your emotions, you're not mad at this trade as a Raptors fan.
Definitely not mad as a Raptors fan. You definitely want to get better going into next season. And now we are joined by the legend, the man that was responsible for constructing the Toronto Raptors franchise as an owner, front office exec, and head coach, the Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas. Zeke, when you heard this news, what were your first thoughts?
My first thoughts were wow. And I say wow because, you know, with LeBron James leaving the East, he was the Toronto killer. He was the person, in my opinion, that really stopped the Raptors from advancing single-handedly. Now that he's in the West, you had to look at this Raptors team with all of their playoff experience, with the DeRozan, with the East being kind of down this year or kind of up in the air because there's no LeBron James. Toronto, you would have thought that they would be one of the favorites to come out of the East this year. And to make this move, you're looking at a Kawhi Leonard and a Danny Green that if they come and they put their heart and soul into the franchise as DeRozan did, then they still are the favorite to come out of the East. But if Kawhi's heart and soul is not into being a Toronto Raptor, then it could be a long season for the Raptors.
And Zeke, I want to go into your GM mind right now. If you're Pop or Masai Ujiri, how are you making Kawhi and DeMar DeRozan feel good about themselves to feel, to your point you just made, that they want to play good basketball and buy all the way in?
Well, there's two parts to this. There's an economical part, and then there's a playing on the field part, a playing on the floor. So when you look at the economics of it, and if you're Toronto, you're saying, okay, I've made the decision that I'm going to have a one-year rental in Kawhi Leonard, and I don't believe in my team anymore. So this speeds up the rebuild process because I think all of us know that Kawhi is 70% a Laker right now in his heart. If you're San Antonio, you're saying, okay, I don't want to make the Lakers better. I don't want to make a team in the West better. So the best thing I can do is move, you know, the star player to the East. You're getting an all-star back in DeRozan. He's 3 years, 2-3 years still under contract. So you have stability if you can get DeRozan to buy into the Spurs' way. So economically and playing-wise, that's how I view those two situations.
So, Zeke, I have to ask you this. You're very familiar with Toronto and how things work in Canada. Is there any scenario in which Kawhi gets comfortable there and stays past this one season?
Well, we all thought that Paul George would never be comfortable in OKC, and it worked out. So, you know, there's always a chance. However, I say that, you know, I think the thing to watch this upcoming season is, and even maybe before the season starts, does Toronto now make a trade with the Lakers? Does Toronto accept the Laker package that was put on the table with all the young players, all the draft picks? You know, so this puts the Lakers right back in the mix as a potential trade partner with the Raptors. And if you're looking at the Raptors from a rebuild or a startup, you know, they've acquired, you know, the most valuable asset in terms of player in the free agent market for trades and potential to move to make their team better. So it's a win-win for Masai and the Raptors, either way you look at it. If you're trying to get him to buy in to win the championship, or you're looking to trade him for more valuable players.
Great points made there. Apparently, Masai Ujiri keeping all those options open, doing a great job as the president of the Raptors. Hey, Zeke, thanks for joining us.
Hey, you're welcome, and good luck, you guys.
And that was Isaiah Thomas, and this is Isaiah Thomas's namesake, as he likes to say. Just learn from my story. Loyalty is just a word in this game.
Preach.
There it is. A lot more on this trade. There is Kawhi. He is going to the Six. We the North. More coming up. We preview the East. Reporting that restricted free agent Marcus Smart is, quote, seriously engaged, end quote, in contract talks with the Boston Celtics. Potential range of this deal is 4 years between $46 and $50 million to bring back Marcus Smart. So we bring back David Aldridge. So, D.A., how did this potential deal come about? We had heard that these two sides were separated a couple of weeks back. There was some flirtation with other teams, perhaps, but now it seems like these two are coming back together.
Well, Ro, look, it's getting late. That's the bottom line, is that, you know, if you haven't signed a deal by now, you need to get something done. And as much as Marcus Smart probably feels like he would be worth more money, potentially next year he could sign the qualifying offer for 1 year and be unrestricted next year. Next year, free agent group, as we've mentioned, is very, very deep. He'd be competing against a lot of different types of players, and it might be easier to just make a good deal now as opposed to trying to make a great deal next summer. So the numbers, the parameters are still kind of in flux, but they are talking. It has moved, and there is some optimism that they'll get something done long term. The Celtics want to keep Marcus Smart. I mean, he's really been the key to their defense the last couple of seasons, and I think continues to be, and just brings intangibles that they don't really have anywhere else on their roster. So the question was, how much do you want to pay for that? And I think that they've probably come up a little bit from where they were before to try to get this done now so they don't have to worry about this going forward.
Now, you mentioned next summer and the players that are going to be available. One of those players is Kyrie Irving, who's currently on the roster. Earlier in the summer, he said he wasn't going to re-up. He said he's going to wait. How does this particular deal affect next year with Kyrie Irving, or does it affect it at all?
I don't think it really does. I mean, I think they want Kyrie Irving back. You know, again, and I think they'll pay luxury tax, and they don't mind paying luxury tax if they had to keep that group together. But there will be suitors. Look, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that New York's going to come hard after Kyrie Irving. I don't have any doubt in my mind that that's going to be a target of the next summer. And so that's the opportunity to go back near his hometown and near his family is going to be. There's going to be some pull there. Now the Celtics have their own pull and have their own unique circumstances, which make them very, very difficult to walk away from, especially if they are successful next year and break through and get to the finals, as is certainly possible with that roster and that coaching staff and organization. And so that we have a long way to go before next year, but there will be a lot of people trying to get Kyrie Irving from Boston. They have a chance, but he's going to be in demand.
He definitely will be in demand, and apparently Danny Ainge knows what he's doing out in Boston. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Celtics. D.A., thanks for joining us.
Sure, my pleasure, Ro.
So, the Eastern Conference, you have the Boston Celtics who go to the Eastern Conference Finals without their two best players. You have the Philadelphia 76ers who are continuing to trust the process. And you have the Toronto Raptors who have just acquired Kawhi Leonard. 3D. What's going on in the East? How are you looking at all these teams as they stack up? Has the East just got a little bit more interesting?
No question about it, Ro. Let's call it what it is. LeBron James is finally out of the Eastern Conference. So now if you look at Washington, Toronto, Indiana, Boston, all those teams are saying there's only been one guy to thrown us 8 straight years. He's gone now. So how can I bolster up my roster, bring in some more talent, and make us viable to go fight? Danny Ainge, I'm sure he had a conversation with Pop, but does not want to give up some of them young pieces. You're bringing back Kawhi Leonard. Bring back Kyrie Irving. You get Gordon Hayward healthy. You have Tatum. You have Brown. I'm not surprised why Danny Ainge didn't make that move. I think he believes in what he has now. The question is, can Brad Stevens continue to preach team basketball? I think David Aldridge hit it right on the head. They love Marcus Smart. Brad Stevens loves what Marcus Smart brings to the table. So bringing him back is very key. So if you're Boston, keep everyone healthy, you're feeling pretty good with yourself. Even though Kawhi Leonard goes to Toronto, if you're a Boston Celtic fan, you still feel good.
Very solid nucleus. They know how to draft. They know how to develop. But what about a team like the Philadelphia 76ers? Lose a couple of pieces. It looks like Ben Simmons is still developing. He still hasn't mastered the jump shot just yet, but he's still a very effective player, young. And, of course, you have Joel Embiid.
Yeah, how do both of those young guys take their games to the next level? Do they bring in another veteran? I'm happy to see J.J. Redick come back at a decent number because you still need shooting on the floor. Covington, do you continue to get better on the floor and knocking down shots? If your core guys continue to work on their games over the summer, yes, Philadelphia is still in the mix of far as going deep as they can in the Eastern Conference.
It's going to be interesting indeed. Like 3DZ said, the Eastern Conference is about to get interesting. But how does this trade affect the rest of the NBA? We're going to talk about that and some more on the other side. Coming back, more Game Time. Last offseason, the Pacers and general manager Kevin Pritchard traded PG-13, that's Paul George, to the Thunder. Now, during a recent taping with NBA TV, Raptors president Masai Ujiri talked about the perils of reacting too quickly to a blockbuster trade.
It's amazing that we talk about grades. You just mentioned grades, and everybody is quick to make the grade, like right after like a trade is made, and nobody knows, you know, like we all go into trades trying to get the best, and Kevin's is an unbelievable example, you know, like of the Victor deal. After that deal, I know even me, I looked at it and I was like, man, you know, like I could I have given him something better than that, you know, like type thing, you know, like and look at what it turned out to be, you know, like they realized something huge for their franchise. People have put thought into this, you know, like people. This is our lives, you know, like we dedicate ourselves. I'm not just saying it, you know, like, because I know these guys, I know how unbelievably hard they work. Nobody sleeps. Everybody is just dedicated to this thing every single day, you know, like, but right after the trade is done, you don't know what's going to happen in 1 year. You don't know what's going to happen in 3 years, you know.
So a lot of times in today's day and age, we hear the phrase prisoner of the moment. You hear people looking at a trade, oh, this team definitely won. But Uzir is correct. I mean, you can look at these trades the day they happen, but you really don't know who's going to be the winner.
Well, until those guys get into the system, put their uniform on, and, as we say, buy into the trade. And a lot of times when you're a superstar, you leave one team, like we know these two guys, they're a little upset right now because one guy wanted to leave, DeMar DeRozan wanted to stay. Now, after the emotions subside a little bit, guys get there, they learn the system, learn the city, and then you start settling in, maybe I want to be here. That remains to be seen with these two guys.
Definitely remains to be seen, but the thing that was probably most impressive, Masai Ujiri was able to pull off this blockbuster trade despite being in Kenya, working with Barack Obama, building basketball courts throughout the continent for his nonprofit organization, Giants of Africa. Ujiri, who was born in Nigeria, has made it a point to give back to his homeland throughout his career.
Like he mentioned, one of the hardest working men in our business. You're all the way over in your homeland, phones are ringing, taking a quick nap, but still taking care of your business, trying to make the Toronto Raptors better. That's why he's one of my favorite GMs in the NBA.
So you have the time change, everything's going on over there. He's trying to take care of business with his nonprofit, but he's still managing to make times to make huge deals.
That's why he's one of the best in our business. He's putting in the work, understanding his number one job is to make the Raptor organization better and make those fans continue to support.
They're definitely looking forward to next season, especially seeing they got eliminated by the Cavs the past 2 seasons. So maybe the Cavs are not going to be...
the Eastern Conference is back shaking.
They're not going to be in the way.
Yes.
Who knows if the Raptors are going to be the favorite. Make sure you keep it locked right here on NBA TV because we got it on lock. Everything. Ro Parrish, Dennis Scott. See you soon.